Today we are going to be looking at point slope form. So we have the equation y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. x1 and y1 is a coordinate point on the line. M is your slope. It's going to be the same slope as your slope-intercept form. Your x and your y are part of the equation. So when you fill in the equation, you're always going to have an x and a y in it. So let's look at some examples. Let's look at some when we are given a point and the slope. So when we're given the point and the slope, all we're going to do is substitute it in to our formula. So I like to think of this as our skeleton formula that we only need to insert our slope and our point. So we have y minus y1. Our y1 is 4. And then it's equal to our slope, which is 1/2, times x minus x1, which is 3. And then we have to graph it. So to graph it, we are going to graph the point 3, 4. So we go over 3, up 4. And then we have our slope of 1/2. So we're going to go up 1 to the right 2. Or down 1 to the left 2. You continue that pattern, and then we draw our line. And don't forget arrows on the end. Okay, let's do the next problem. We have a point -2, 1, and we have a slope of -3. Substitute it in. Y minus y1, which is 1, equals -3 times x minus x1, which is -2. We have to simplify this. We have a minus, a negative. That becomes a positive. So we're going to have y minus 1 equals -3 times x plus 2. Now let's graph it. We have a point -2, 1. So go over -2, up 1. Now we have a slope of -3. So we're going to go down 1 to the right 3. Down 1 to the right 3. And draw your line. And don't forget your arrows. Let's look at the next one. We have the point 3, -4, and a slope of -1. So you have y minus y1, which is -4, equals m, which is -1, times x minus x1, which is 3. Simplify. Minus a negative makes a positive. So we have y plus 4 equals -1 times x minus 3. You do not need to have the -1. You can just have a negative parenthesis, x minus 3. Both of them are correct. Now let's graph it. We have the point 3, -4. And we have a slope of -1. So down 1 to the right 1. Or up 1 to the left 1. Draw your line. And don't forget your arrows. So that is point slope when you are given a point and a slope. Now we need to find the point and the slope when we are given these equations. So our slope is going to be what's in front of our parenthesis in front of x. So that's our slope. So our slope here is -5. Our point is after a negative sign with our y and then with our x. So our point here is +2 for our y and +3 for our x. So 3, 2. As you can see, it's the opposite of what is shown because our formula, if you remember, has a minus. So let's look at the next one. We have y minus 3 equals 4 times x minus 2. Our slope is 4. And our point, our x would be +2. Our y is +3. So think of the opposite sign shown. I want you to try the next one. Pause the video, come back to check your work. Okay, let's check it. Our slope here is 3/4, and our point is 6, and then we have a plus a 7. Think of that as minus a -7 makes that plus, so our y value is -7. Let's look at the next one. We have y plus 3 equals x plus 5. Here, we have no parentheses. So, what you can think of it is anything times itself, anything times 1 is itself. So, our slope here is 1. Now, our point, our x has a +5, so it's going to be the opposite, so -5. Our y +3, opposite, so -3. And then our last one here, our slope is going to be -2. And our point would be -1, opposite, and then 0. Okay, now let's look at rewriting to slope-intercept form. So remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So our first step here, we need to get rid of our parentheses. So we're going to take our slope and multiply it through. So we get -4 times x, -4x. -4 times 3 is a -12. Bring down everything else as is. Now we need y by itself, so we're going to add 2 to both sides. It cancels out, gives us y equaling -4x, and then -12 plus 2 is -10. So that is our formula, which is the same line if you were to graph these two equations, but now it's in slope-intercept form. Okay, let's do the next one. Distribute our slope -1/2 to each thing inside the parentheses. So we have -1/2 x. -1/2 times a -4 is a positive, and then a half of 4 is 2. Bring down everything else as is. Now we have a y minus 3. We just need y, so we're going to add 3 to both sides. and it gives us y equaling negative 1/2. X plus 2 plus 3 is 5. As you can see, our slope is the same in both equations. The last one here, I want you to pause the video and do it. Come back and check your work once you are finished. Okay, let's check your work. We're going to distribute our slope 2/3 into each thing inside the parentheses. So we get 2/3 x minus 2/3 of 6 is 4. Bring down everything else as is. Now we need to get y by itself, so we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. And gives us y equaling 2/3 x minus 5. Now we're going to take our point slope formula and rewrite it into standard form. And standard form, if you remember, is ax plus by equals c. So these equations here are the same equations as above. So we have to get rid of the parentheses, and that's the same process for each problem here. So we can take our slope-intercept form and rearrange it into standard form. So we're going to piggyback off of the steps we did before. So this equation in slope-intercept form is y equals negative 4x plus, not plus, minus 10. Now we need x and y on the same side. So we're going to add 4x to both sides. Cancels, we get 4x plus y equaling negative 10. And that is your equation in standard form. Next one, we're going to piggyback from above and bring down our slope-intercept form. So y equals negative 1/2 x plus 5. Now we need to move our x over. So we're going to add 1/2 x to both sides. Cancels. We have 1/2 x plus y equaling 5. If you remember standard form, we cannot have fractions. So we have a 1/2 x. We have to get rid of the 1/2. So we're going to multiply the whole equation by the denominator, which is 2. So it gives us x equaling 2 times y. I'm sorry. Try that again. It gives us x plus 2 times y is 2y equals 2 times 5, 10. So our standard form is x plus 2y equals 10. Okay, let's do the last one here. Again, piggyback off of above, bring down our slope-intercept form. Now we need to rearrange it. So we're going to subtract 2/3 x from both sides. Cancels out. This negative 2/3 x plus y equaling negative 5. Now we need to get rid of the fraction. So we're going to take this whole equation and multiply it by the denominator. We also have to get rid of this negative, because our a has to be positive. So we're just going to multiply by negative 3. Cancels out the negatives, and we're left with a 2x. The negative 3 times y is negative 3y, equaling negative, negative, make a positive. 3 times 5 is 15. So our standard form is 2x minus 3y equals 15. Now, we are given 2 lines here. We need to see if it's the same line. So, we're going to take our first equation. We're going to get rid of the parentheses. So we're going to distribute negative 2.5 to each thing inside the parentheses. So we get negative 2.5x. Negative 2.5 times negative 4. Negative and a negative make a positive 10. Bring down everything else as is. Now combine your like terms. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. Cancels out. So we get y equaling negative 2.5x plus 10 plus 3 is 13. Now let's see if we get the same thing from the other side. Distribute. We get negative 2.5x. Negative times a negative is a positive. 2.5 times 6 gives us 15. Bring down everything else as is. Now combine your like terms, subtract 2 from both sides, and we get y to equal negative 2.5x. 15 minus 2 is a positive 13. So these equations are the same. We get the same slope-intercept form of each. So if we look at the original, we have the same slope. And you have to have the same slope for the same line. The only thing different is it's giving us 2 different points that line's going through. So we have the same line. The last thing we're going to look at today is writing an equation when given 2 points. And we need to have this in our point slope form. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we need a point and a slope. So we have 2 points here, so we're going to need one of them. Doesn't matter which one. I like to use the first point every time, but we need a slope. So the first thing we have to do is find slope. So remember, we have our slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2, 5, minus negative 2 over x2, which is 5, minus 8. 5 minus a negative is a positive. 5 plus 2 is 7. Over 5 minus 8 is negative 3. So we have a slope of negative 7/3. And then we have the point, which we're going to use our first point, 8, negative 2. So we're going to use the skeleton. Y minus. We need something here. So we need our y value, which is negative 2. And that's going to equal our slope, which we found out was negative 7/3 times x minus our x1. And our x1 is 8. So there is our equation, but it's not simplified. We have a minus a negative. That becomes a positive. So we have y plus 2 equaling negative 7/3 times x minus 8. And this is in our point slope form when we were given two separate points. So that is your lesson on point slope. Please reach out if you have any questions.